So you want to make a BLUEFACE beat. Well, fear not, it doesn't really matter how much effort you put into it. He's probably going to record with the master muted. But in the scenario that you're just making beats for YouTube, like I am, making a BLUEFACE beat is not that hard. We're going to pop open the piano here. Once you have your piano, all you really have to do is make a melody that goes from low to high relatively quickly. It's bad, but it's good enough. Throw it on the mixer, add some reverb. Fruity reverb will do just fine. I'm not actually going octave up to those notes you're really not supposed to play, but I think it sounds more like, you know, BLUEFACE-y, like West Coast type shit. Also, I forgot to mention in your melody, make sure there's this big space in the middle for some reason. There tends to be just percussion and drums and shit in the middle, but optionally you can add that West Coast flute, which is an Xpand. If you don't have Xpand, I don't know where else to find it. It took me forever to figure out it was an Xpand, but we got it. Surely any kind of flute or whatever will do just fine, but I've saved the preset. It's called Smooth Square inside Xpand. It's just this sound. Just that West Coast flute thing, I don't know, whatever. I turned the attack up also, by the way, because you don't want it to be like, you know, it's not really a pluck, it's more of a pad flute thing. I don't fucking know. So with this flute noise, you're just going to want to fill this empty space with your root note, whatever that was. Just drop it, make it 2 of these things long, and you're solid. This is all really formulaic. It doesn't change from song to song, so don't worry. I added these 2 little notes, which is just those, but dropped an octave, just to add some small differences. You don't want it to be a completely repetitive beat. Now find a generic trap kit. Do not use any of these like advanced, like good sounds. You're gonna want generic shit here. Get a generic clap, put it exactly where you'd expect to put it. So now that we have the claps laid out, go down to the last note, drop one of those, highlight it, press Alt-U, get the chopper open, leave everything alone except this knob, move it to that notch right there, should be fine. And as you have them highlighted, right click on the left side, drag up like that, and you'll get that clap effect. So I'm editing this, I find out the bottom of my screen's cut off because the MacBook's resolution is not fucking normal. You right click from where you want the velocity to start, it's about there, but it's fucking cut off, and drag up like that. This is really poorly explained. Fuck. Now we need hats. Again, think generic. Something like this would be fine. I would say even this is maybe a little too complicated. I might be overdoing it. Just shoot for something like this. Now it's time for perks, and if you have one of these generic ass kits, lucky for you, it has everything you need. So you need this, 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 and possibly this. We'll see how that goes though. Now you gotta go crazy on the perks, because now you have to fill up all this empty space you made with just anything you can find, and this is what I came up with. Yeah, that should do it. Now this is the point where you'd want to go out of the generic shit and get yourself a well-mixed kick. I wouldn't suggest cheaping out on the kick because it's going to make everything sound like ass. Just follow this kick pattern. This legitimately never changes. 808s are easy. Don't pick anything too crunchy, too distorted. Just keep it clean. This is fine. Now the only thing we're missing is the real sauce, and that's the bass. I have a couple in Omnisphere that I like. I've made a couple in Harmless. If you need any presets, let me know. I'll send them to you. Just make the bass follow the same pattern as the 808, and you're straight. I decided to change the clap. This one's a little snappier, I kind of like it. The other one was a little too soft. So now to glue everything together, you need an open hat. Now there's two things we're gonna look for. I have this symbol. See if you have this exact one, because this is the one they always use. So if you have it, great. So relative to the clap, this is where you want the symbol to be. And then for your actual open hat, just make it follow the kicks. But for some extra sauce, go to your open hat, click this thing here, and follow this arrangement of knobs. Basically, it makes the open hat play only as long as you have the key down. So why is that useful? Well, everything here is fine. You can hit Control L and make them all touch. But at the end, you want it to sound kind of choppy, because that's like the cool part of the beat. So make them play like that. And it'll sound like this. So as far as the actual beat goes, it's done. You can actually just split by channel and throw everything in here, because at this point you pretty much have all the elements. At this point you might be listening to what you have and say, well, this sounds kind of empty. You're right. Get yourself a stomp, put it right there. This is actually the stomp they used in Stop Cappin', I'm pretty sure. Some they use it. So when you're using these stomps, you have to be really careful not to overdo it, because they're really fucking loud. I turned mine down quite a bit to make sure nothing's clashing with the bass or anything like that. If you have a really hard stomp like this one, only make it play at the beginning of each, loop. If it's a little softer, it doesn't have much bass in it, you can make it hit every time the kicks hit. I have both, because I want it to have a strong impact in the beginning, but I still want to keep these stomps going just to fill up all this empty shit. I realize the kicks aren't hitting here, but you still just want to line it up with the kick pattern, even if the kicks aren't playing. So you should have this by now. And actually I might turn this down even more. So let's talk about arrangement. This is just preference here, but I'm just going to take out these that hit in the beginning, at least for the first 4 bars, and then introduce the rest of them here. So general rule of thumb, the first 4 bars is your bass, piano, flute, and then some effects. Next 4 bars, keep your bass, piano, and flute. Add the stomps, is at least what I do. You don't have to do that. Add the rest of the stomps and introduce some percussion. So a good place to start is the perks, not the hi-hats, cymbals, triangles, whatever the fuck, cowbell. Leave everything else out. Now after that, you could bring everything else in. Just make sure your bass is not playing at the same time as your 808. And you're solid. As a last minute executive decision, I'm removing the tabla. It sounds retarded. If you find that your stomps are clashing with your kick, throw it on the track and just cut out the lows, the immediate lows at least. I need a little more than that. Just to make sure nothing's clashing, keep a clean mix. And there's another last minute decision, at least for this beat, I'm going to put this clap here as well. I might just turn up the claps entirely. Never mind. Everything you do past here is entirely your decision. One thing I like to do is go on the master, throw a gross beat, throw on the half beat gate, then make an automation clip for the mix, and only make it hit like at the last, like where we put these open hats to go ch-ch-ch-ch. Just make the whole beat do that once in a while. Don't overdo it. It'll sound sick as fuck. If you think it sounds too choppy, you don't have to turn the mix all the way up. You could do like that. Well, all we have now is about 40 seconds of beat. So if you just do one of these, we now have 3 minutes, and you can now export this and you're solid. One more thing that's totally optional is add a scratch. I feel like a lot of BLUEFACE songs have it. If you just search for scratch in your browser, okay, and kind of cycle through these, you'll eventually find FX scratch. You can put them on the off beat like this, and just throw them where we put this effect again. This little ch-ch-ch-ch. It's a little quiet. I could turn that up actually. I'm gonna make it a little more audible by turning up the highs. And that's it. So I'm gonna go mix this and we can hear the final result.